Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be coming to you right now live. It is so amazing just to get to connect with you like right now in real time and chat with you. So over this next hour, you're welcome to ask anything. So nothing is off limits. And what makes this video, this call right now, extra special is that, well, for our channel is that we're celebrating a big milestone on the channel. We just hit 50,000 subscribers, and I'm feeling so humbled and hopeful knowing that this message that so many of us are working so hard to put out, that recovery is possible, is finally starting to reach more and more people. And I'm here today with one of the main people out there who is helping get that message out there and helping people see that this is possible. I'm here with Miguel Bautista from CFS Recovery, one of the most recognized voices in this CFS recovery space. And he is helping so many people reclaim their lives with a science-backed, like no nonsense, yet really deeply compassionate approach. As Miguel always says, you are just one mind shift away from living a life with thriving health. So Miguel, so excited to do this with you. Thank you so much for joining me live today.
Absolutely. It is great to be here. And again, congrats on the 50K subscribers. I feel like there's things are starting to shift in the CFS world where there's more belief in recovery, there's more proof of recovery, and you could just feel things shifting in the space, which is super cool. And you're one of the biggest voices here of hope and inspiration and just empowerment for people who are looking for that. So it's awesome to see.
Yeah, I'm just thinking how nice it is for everyone watching and listening, because of course it's nice for us because we've been working for this for years now. And, in the beginning, I imagine you saw something similar. There'd be quite a bit of pushback in the comments, even when we were talking about science-backed recovery strategies, and it had to be discouraging and confusing for people who were watching the videos. Like, I don't know what to believe. But now you just see like more and more and more, everyone's like, okay, yes, we're getting it. This is the thing.
Yeah, and it's just organically growing too. At first it was just us sharing these things online because we know it worked for us. So much pushback, but now more people they're finding us and they're like, I kind of heard that before. Oh, I heard a little bit of that. And then we're kind of putting some of the puzzle pieces together, bringing these different resources in, different people in. So it's super cool. Very humbling to be doing something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Even doctors are getting on board, some of them. So yeah, there's never been a better time to be more hopeful. And we've got, the whole point of this is to answer your guys' questions right now live. So we're going to hop right over to that first question.
Let's do it.
All right. So we have from, Lansemi, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, our acid reflux, dizziness, abdominal tension, shortness of breath, and insomnia symptoms associated with CFS.
Absolutely. Those are very, very common symptoms. And not only those ones, there's like 50 or 60 different symptoms that can be associated with CFS. That's why it's so confusing to diagnose or to figure out it even is CFS in the first place. But yeah, super, super common. What I typically see is, or how I typically educate people about this is, look, as long as you've ruled out any other health issues that are causing the acid reflux, dizziness, shortness of breath, as long as you've had tests and scans done to show that it's not life-threatening or things like that, high chance it's a hypersensitive nervous system issue. So instead of fixing those symptoms, we like to tell people to focus on, okay, it's probably better to focus on the root cause behind this, which is a dysregulated nervous system. Once we recalibrate that, then these other surface level symptoms start to really go away. So yeah, very, very common.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Obviously, have to start with ruling out the physical stuff because sometimes there is a physical cause that needs to be addressed. But once all of that has been ruled out, and we all have, I love the term, I'm sure you've heard normal abnormalities, because
Yeah.
there's no human on the planet that's going to get scanned head to toe and they're not going to find some latent viruses, some strange things in the brain, some, structural things in their back. And of course, you have to check all of that out. I know, but when nervous system regulation is at the core of it, I love also just thinking about, I think the term was coined by Dr. John Sarno, but the symptom imperative, which essentially means your brain and your nervous system are going to give you symptoms that you're going to believe. So if you have a
Mhm.
family history of migraines, you might be getting migraines or back pain, or, if my mother had CFS. So that was one that I was very primed to believe was possible for me. And it's creative. And once you're onto some symptoms, it shifts and moves around to something else. And your brain can create any and every symptom in your body. So when that nervous system regulation is at the core of it, that's why, getting too caught up on the specific symptoms people find isn't so helpful versus looking at the general quality of symptoms, like, do they come on after stress? Are they inconsistent? Are they here some days and not other days? Do they only come on certain times a day? Are they only around certain people or weather? And, all of these little fishy clues that are like, wait a minute, maybe it's not a structural issue. This seems like my nervous system doing,
Yeah.
putting on a show.
Exactly, exactly. It can be that's what makes it so confusing, right? And when we get deeper into this stuff, we could find the links as to why those particular symptoms are coming up. For example, like I talked to someone just a few days ago, and for several years, I think it was 8 years, really bad food sensitivities and intolerance, but
Mhm.
he noticed his body would react before the food even hit his stomach, right? As soon as he swallows it, automatically headache, dizziness, brain fog, heart palpitations. And so he pretty much figured out, okay, it can't be the food because your body can't react that fast. And also the doctor said there was nothing there. But we
Right.
realized the whole thing that triggered him into this stuff, um, he took some medication where he had a severe reaction. So now anything he ingested for the next 8 years, his brain didn't trust him and it gave him all of those same symptoms even though that medication was out of his system years ago. So yeah, it's really interesting how powerful the brain is. Like it can really cause some physical symptoms. And for you guys watching this right now, these symptoms are not just in your head, they're real.
No.
They are real. Like your heart rate is up, you do have shortness of breath, but the thing is that the root cause a lot of the times it's a signal coming from your brain that's causing this stuff to happen. The lungs are actually fine or the heart's actually fine, which is
Mhm.
why nothing tends to show up on the tests. So
Yeah.
looking for the
I'm
brain.
glad you brought up the food because that's something that so many people struggle with. And for many conditions, I mean, food is important, right? We know that what you eat and what you put in your body makes a difference. So a lot of us get really fixated on food. Like, this is going to be my answer to fix this. And there's so much conflicting information out there that you eventually get scared of all food. And I remember getting to a point where it seemed like virtually every bite of food I ate made me feel worse because I had read something about how every single thing on the planet was bad for you. So it's interesting to see how it can even present as food intolerances. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
confusing.
it is
All right,
wild.
so many questions coming in. Next question from Jehan Music. I hope that's your real name. I love the last name. How do we approach exercise when we are on the mend but stuck at 85%? That is such a great question.
Yeah, and a lot of people can get stuck in that phase where it's like 80 to 90% recovered. At that point, when you're 80, 85, 90%, I mean, you can live life. You can go out, you could see friends, you could probably work a little bit, maybe even travel, and the symptoms are pretty minimal on a day-to-day basis. However, if you do start trying to exercise, it can bring about something we call adjustment periods, which is basically your body adjusting to a higher level of stimulus. It's like when you try to do more, a lot of times you'll probably flare up. We don't look at that as a setback or something bad. It's just part of the process, kind of like how you're working out. If you work out, your muscles get sore, then they grow stronger. Same thing with the nervous system. You do some things, put some stimulation on your nervous system, and then you have some symptoms. But you do level up after that if you can respond well. So back to the exercise question, when you are in that functional phase of recovery, that last little bit, it's very similar. It's kind of like exposure therapy. I mean, you start very simple, very basic. The mistake most people make is they try to jump into exercise too soon, and they'll keep going until they kind of hit a wall. And that's where people can stay stuck in this cycle of, you know, getting a little bit better, kind of getting into the gym, then having to take the next month off the gym. So the way we like to structure it is just start with simple body weight exercises. We're just priming the body for move for movement, as well as just extra weight, basically, but not quite heavy weights, body weight. So it's something like we've started exercise programs with people as little as 5 body weight squats for the day and 5 push-ups off the counter per day. And you just start there because there's 2 things here, right? It's more than just physically exercising. We have to let your brain adapt to even stepping into the gym or adding in exercise. Because physically, at this stage, your body is probably ready to handle some exercise, but mentally, are we anticipating leading up to the exercise? Or afterwards, are we thinking, ooh, let's see what happens, I hope I don't get too many symptoms. So there's the physical aspect, but also the mental aspect of trusting your body that it's not just going to fall apart once you do start exercising. So that's why you want to expose yourself to these kind of movements. So I would start very simple body weight exercises, no more than 5 minutes in a day when you're just starting out. And that's a pretty safe area, pretty safe zone to do it in. And then if that's going well, the next week, just add on another 5 minutes. And honestly, it could be anything. You could do assisted push-ups off a counter, assisted squats, hold on to the counter while you do the squats. You could walk just a little bit faster when you're going outside. So adding on things little by little. And once you get comfortable with the body weight stuff, then you can start going to the gym. But even then, once you go into the gym, you're in there for like 5, maybe 10 minutes. So it's probably going to look weird to other people. You come in, you do a few exercises and leave, but that's where you also have to drop the ego, especially if you were a previous athlete. You're going to want to do the same weights you did before. And you're going to be comparing your strength to like the stuff you used to do. So you have to put that aside and be okay being like the weakest one in the gym when you start. I was the weakest one in the gym when I started. I did like 10 push-ups and I was gassed. I was winded. I was like, that's it for today. I could have done that at home. So start small.
Most of us can't even do 10 push-ups, so that might not be relatable for a lot of people watching. I can't do 10 push-ups now. But yeah, it's absolutely a lesson in patience, in humility, in thinking smaller than you've ever thought, and realizing that those early workouts aren't about building up physical strength and endurance, which is what you're probably so impatient to do after all this time off, but it's about building up nervous system strength and endurance. So like it's going through the motions, like pick up a 1 pound weight and do some bicep curls. It's not about making your biceps stronger that day. It's just about reducing the fear around the activity. Exactly. Yeah. That was very well explained.
Yeah. And the trust, like one more thing, it's like some people, they had a crash from the gym before. So now they have a phobia of gyms, even stepping into it. So some people, we just say, hey, go into the gym for 10 minutes, sit in the stretching area. We just need to get you comfortable in that environment without triggering almost this, it's like a PTSD response, because they associate the gym with, oh, I'm going to end up in the hospital, because that's what happened the last 2 times I went to the gym. So, at first it's just literally getting into that environment and starting to feel comfortable in it. And some people don't realize that. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you do start going to a physical gym.
Yeah, that is such great advice. And just one last thing I'd add from my own experience is that even once I got really comfortable in the gym and I could push really hard for an hour, and it took me a long time to build up to that. And then I started running thinking that should be no problem, and then
Yeah,
that
running.
floored me. So I had
Oh
to
god.
sort of start from zero with running, teaching my nervous system that that was okay. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, even though physically I was capable, it was still causing those symptom flares. So any new thing, it's like, okay, so maybe you get comfortable in the gym and then you want to go back to tennis. You might have to start really small with tennis again, and then have some
Yeah,
patience with each new thing you add back in. All,
absolutely.
all right. What's our next question? Okay. Ignacio, after 2 years of recovery, many of my old symptoms suddenly returned, possibly triggered by asymptomatic COVID. Have you ever experienced a relapse after a long period? And then how do you handle that adjustment?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, you mentioned, it may be from asymptomatic COVID, but this is actually quite common. We call it ana- anniversary symptoms or the anniversary effect. Uh, so I don't know if what time of the year this happened for you, but some people, let's say they have a crash in March or something, very intense happen where they go backwards. And then after March, they get better and better and better. They're good to go. They're doing really well. The following March, it's like your brain has a check mark or a bookmark in your brain. It's like, okay, around March, around springtime, this happened last year. So it starts prepping itself for it to happen again. It's like on a cycle. So it knows these things. We see it quite a bit. And we've seen this with probably a couple hundred people where they're doing great. And out of nowhere, they have some kind of flare up. They didn't do many things differently. They were doing very well. Momentum was, increasing. And then it's like there was this curveball that happened seemingly out of nowhere. And we saw it so much that we actually gave it a name, the anniversary effect. So I wouldn't even look at it as a relapse. We don't even use that word. I would look at it as, an adjustment period or some kind of, it's like a little glitch in the nervous system. It's old things coming back, but it's a great opportunity to respond well. Another way to look at it is your brain's almost testing you to see if you're really, really ready to reintegrate back into the world. It's like its last ditch effort to see, oh, okay, is this nervous system still on edge? Because it's been doing great. We'll throw this thing out there, see how it does. So really try not to take the bait. Right now, if you start thinking, I'm going backwards, I messed up, shoot, did I just lengthen recovery by 6 months, something like that? Your brain knows it hears all of these things. So a lot of times we see it throw out these curveballs. So don't buy into it. Keep doing what you know you need to do, which is respond well and do all the things that got you to this place. At whatever, I don't think you put a percentage, but whatever got you to this place, continue doing those things. And really be mindful of the scary thoughts that come in, because that is your fight or flight center speaking. But it sounds like the anniversary effect. You'll be totally fine, man.
I absolutely love that. And I can see how scary it would be for people. And then that just fuels it and makes it worse. So even just knowing that, yeah, you're not alone, man. This happens to so many people. It's a normal
Yeah.
phenomenon that we see. I've also heard about, extinction burst, although 2 years
Yep.
feels a little bit late, but
Yep.
your nervous system has one last ditch effort to try and get these things to work. Or for me, 2 or 3 years after CFS symptoms were gone, I started getting chronic back pain, which I'd never had in my life. But my life was stressful and I wasn't dealing with emotions and I wasn't doing all the things we were supposed to do. And I did some brain retraining exercises from Curable and I didn't panic 'cause I'm like, I know what this is. Nervous
Yep.
system, I hear you. And I very quickly was able to get rid of it once I was onto it. So
Yep.
yeah, that's excellent. All right, next question we have is a question from Meg, put forth by Irina. Do you happen to know anyone who's gotten their sense of smell back? Good
Oh yeah.
question.
Many people. Actually, with all the people we've seen and like worked directly with, which is at this point, I can't even count. It's well over 1,000. But a good portion of that are long COVID patients or people who have had long COVID. Not all of them lost their smell, but a good handful did, right? Plenty of people did. And yes, the smell does come back. Um, that may take some time, but also the taste. Some people couldn't taste food for like a year, and that came back once the other symptoms started going away as well. So yeah, we've definitely seen that before, and it's the same. It's the same approach actually, because we haven't at this point we haven't found a way to bring the taste buds back right away. We just have to go to the root cause, which is the dysregulated nervous system, and then once that gets ironed out, all this other weird stuff starts to go away. So yeah, absolutely, we've seen it come back.
Good. Good to hear. Okay, next question we have is, will Raelan ever get used to wearing her glasses and just accept that she needs them? Okay, from Rena, when I do brain training with stopping all the symptom thoughts, I get even more stressed in this thoughts, and the spiral down in symptom thoughts gets stronger. What happens wrong? What am I doing wrong? So yeah, struggling to just really stop thinking about symptoms and then just ending up in a spiral of stressing and thinking about more symptoms. And I shouldn't be thinking about them. That is very relatable. That is a good question.
Yeah, yeah, and that's very common to feel that. So don't feel like you're doing something completely wrong here. What I see in that question is there's probably some black and white, all or nothing thinking going on, where you're probably putting too much pressure on yourself to do it perfectly. I have to stop all of the thoughts that are coming, and if even a few get through, then I failed. It's not working. So take the pressure off yourself. You don't have to do it perfectly. All you have to do is respond the best you can. And to be honest, for all the negative thoughts that were coming to me, I was able to catch maybe half of them, right? Because it'll just happen on autopilot. You're not even aware it's going on sometimes. So you do the best you can. And something that really resonates with people is, well, one, you don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to catch every single thought. But if you can respond well, or do even 1% better, or 0.01% better than you did yesterday in responding well, that's a step in the right direction. Even me, like, I can't do it perfectly, and I teach this stuff. So, don't be too hard on yourself. Just whatever you do catch when you see the thoughts come in, just try your best to say, oh, that's just a hypersensitive nervous system, even your thoughts. So that's another thing that helped me is I didn't buy into all of my thoughts, especially the negative ones, the ones that said, did you overdo it? Is this okay to do? Are you going to crash? We felt these symptoms last time. Are you going to end up in the hospital? All of these thoughts, they'll just automatically plop into your brain and your mind. So for me, I just simply put the label on them. Okay, that even those thoughts, I saw them as a symptom. So I tried my best to swat them away. But if I didn't swat all of them, I was like, okay, well, I'm not perfect. Even Michael Jordan missed some of the shots, even Wayne Gretzky. And who's the best baseball player?
Oh, you're
Babe Ruth?
asking the wrong person.
I think Babe Ruth or something, but he never hit a home
Yeah.
run every single time. He missed so many. In fact,
Yeah.
Michael Jordan missed more game-winning shots than he made. He's still the greatest. So as long as you can put your best foot forward, you're good. Just focus on what you can control.
I can't talk baseball, but I can tell you that Taylor Swift has had more songs that have tanked than have done well.
There you go.
Yeah, I love that self-compassion piece, that you're not always going to get it right. And also, it's important. We have different tools that we use for symptoms depending on the level of severity. And I imagine you do something like this as well. Like, if your symptoms are really severe, this isn't a time to do somatic tracking and try and observe them with neutrality. It's like someone lights you on fire and says, like, just tell me in a calm state how you feel and how you're not affected by your symptoms. So in those moments, you're just trying to distract yourself or do whatever you can, whatever you need. There is no wrong way to handle it. Just trying to remind yourself, excuse me, of that safety.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another trick. If you guys have difficulty responding well to symptoms, you could pair that, you trying to respond well and, telling yourself it's a hypersensitive nervous system. You could pair that with some other kind of sensory stimulus. So I like to eat, whatever, a hard candy that would just melt in my mouth, or I would listen to very light, good music, or I would like pet a pillow, something to pair the brain retraining exercises with. Because essentially what we're trying to do is get your brain out of this fearful state, out of this panic state. Anything to get it out of that state it can be good, you know? So that's another trick is you can pair it.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it reminds me of something that Alan Gordon talks about in his book, The Way Out. And because just like you're saying, what we have is a nervous system that's stuck in high alert. It's
Yeah.
just responding to everything. And understandably, people facing this can get caught in this place of always being in one of two states. Either they're waiting for symptoms,
Yep.
always like scanning for them, or they come and then they're like, okay, how do I rack? This is my moment. How do I blah, 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 So it's that constant high alert. And what he says is one of the best things you can do is just shift your focus off of trying to recover and on just trying to live a little bit. Like what brings you joy? Like you were saying, pairing it with some happy things. Can you put your toes in the grass? Can you listen to a soundtrack of some birds? Whatever it is that makes you happy, because that sends your nervous system signals of safety just as effectively as doing some of these other brain retraining and somatic tracking things. So
Mhm.
sometimes the
Absolutely.
best thing you can do is just stop trying.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right. So many great questions. Our next question here from Soul. I was bedridden and I'm now still 85% in bed. Oh my goodness, that is incredibly rough. I'm sorry to hear that. But I have the urge to move my body more. I don't feel comfortable lying in bed anymore. Is this a good sign? And should I start to increase activity?
Yeah, great question. So, if you've been like, I could already see where you are at in this. I have a whole recovery flow chart in my mind. So, you've been in the red, which is like freeze mode, which is why you were bedridden. Now that you're getting the urge to start doing more, you're shifting into the next phase, which is good. We call this the orange phase, or it's like this is where you start getting more adrenaline. You go from freeze mode to more fight or flight mode. So it's a little bit tricky here because you'll start to have the urge to move more and have more energy. We just want to, I guess, be mindful of how much we're doing coming out of the bed, because you're going to have this energy, but it can feel like anxious energy, like restless energy. So yeah, I think it's definitely a sign to start increasing activity, and specifically for that phase when you're transitioning from bedridden to something like couchbound, which is the phase you're going into, is just more sitting up, sitting upright, more, what do you call it? Moving around, as in moving to the couch, hanging out there for a handful of hours, moving to another room, moving back. In this stage, you can also start adding in more showers throughout the week, eating by yourself, things like that. So, yeah, I think it's a really good sign. That means your body is coming out of that freeze mode, especially if you have the urge to move. Because prior to that, you're probably terrified to move and didn't even want to get out of bed. Now your brain is like, no, let's get out of this bed.
Yeah.
So it's wanting the world to start expanding, like your world to start expanding. So that's kind of what I would do, is try being upright a little bit more. You don't have to say fully upright. It could be sitting down or leaning back on something, but you don't have to be flat the whole day now. That's probably the biggest takeaway from this. Start being more upright.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And just knowing and accepting and being at peace with the fact that as you start doing little bits more, there's going to be little symptom flares that come up, and it's an inevitable part of the process. I used to
Mhm.
say, there, you can't get better without feeling worse, which is unfortunate. But also in those moments of feeling worse, those are our opportunities to work
Yeah.
on the symptoms and work on our fear.
Yeah. So congrats, by the way. The
Yeah.
bedridden phase is the hardest phase. So now you can tolerate more as well. Like usually when people are bedridden, noise hurts, light hurts, very sensitive. Not everybody, but most people. So now you can actually, you have more options of activities to do, like podcasts, music. You could probably write, use your hands a little more. So yeah, enjoy this next stage of freedom and options of activities to do. So I'm excited for you. keep it
Yeah,
off.
that's amazing. That's amazing. All right, our next question from Kaya. Oh, Kaya put this from Chad. Um, I used to be an avid runner and miss it dearly. Do I accept the fact that I cannot run right now and start strength training, or do I try to push through?
Yeah, great question. So it really depends on where you're at. Like, I'm not sure if you're already walking right now or if you're just starting to get outside the house, but let's assume you are walking right now. I would I would increase your walking because that's probably the closest thing to running. I was just talking to somebody like 2 days about this. Was it? Yeah, it was like 2 days. He used to run Ironmans, and our goal is to get him to do Ironmans in the next 12 months. And he's at the point where he can't run right now. He'll try for 10 seconds, and his whole body will just hurt. Joints are achy. Um, it's almost like a squeaky door. Those hinges aren't really primed right now. So I would start doing either longer walks or faster walks. You can do some strength training, but I think if you specifically like running,
Yeah.
I would focus on the walks more. And
Yeah.
depending on how you feel, you could go for. So something we're doing with him is just 5 to 10 seconds of almost like jog walking. Like, you ever see those football games or soccer games where they're going to the water to get, uh, they're going to the sideline to get water? It's like a brisk jog, kind of like that. Something really, really light, um, with no expectations of performance. We're just trying to get your body to move a little bit faster in very short bursts. So when you're going to the car, the last 5 to 10 feet, very light jog there. Back to the front door, same thing. So you're sprinkling this in throughout the day, and also, yeah, you have space between doing all that. So that's what I would do, assuming you can walk a good amount right now.
Yeah, I think that is excellent. All right, our
Mm.
next question is from Ali. Do you suggest any nuances for those with severe POTS? It feels like I can regulate to a good state, mindset, etc., but all activity is still incredibly difficult and will flare my sensations.
Hmm. Yeah, so you're probably in that fight or flight phase. So it would be the orange phase, similar to I think it was 2 questions ago. Is probably a lot of restless energy. We see that a lot with POTS. um, there's a lot of adrenaline boiling beneath the surface. It's like your body just dumps the adrenaline. And then when you try to do something, it doesn't take much for that heart rate to jump through the roof, especially when you stand up. So one of the best ways to overcome POTS is, of course, a gradual exposure to things, but also solving the fear around the POTS. Because we find that with POTS, and I had severe POTS, like rolling over in bed, heart rate would jump to like 140 or 150 for several months. Now I can run, as long as I want, no problem, workout. So we basically we almost have to overcome the fear of like passing out from POTS or like our heart just stopping, because you start to get this phobia of your heart when you have those POTS. So be mindful of, what is your mindset before you stand up or you go to take a shower or stand up and brush your teeth? Are you anticipating that the heart rate's going to go through the roof? So that's one. What is happening before the activity? Uh, and then especially what is happening after the activity? So when you sit back down, are we starting to anticipate right away? Uh-oh, here it comes. Here comes that wave of adrenaline. Heart rate's going up. So you really want to try to neutralize any kind of emotions around heart rate. That's something that really helped me when I realized that, okay, my heart is perfectly healthy. They did all the scans and tests. It's not just going to stop beating. Okay, so there's just a lot of discomfort I'm dealing with, but it'll go away over time. Then I became indifferent to the heart rate. It could be 150, it could be 80. And I was like, I don't care. It's all inaccurate anyways because my nervous system is all jacked up. So I would continue to slowly introduce things, but really work on that association you have with a heart rate. I'm not saying ignore it and just keep walking and keep going, but keep doing what you're doing physically. I would really focus on the mental aspect of this and the emotional stuff, like leading up to the activity and also after. How much anticipation you're having. We want to bring that down a little bit, if that makes sense.
Really well said. That's excellent. Okay, our next question is, oh boy, I'm not going to get this right. I will try again. Ganbian du Hiao. I'm sorry. I know I did not get that right. But to your question, could you address more directly how to increase cognitive activity for someone afraid to think due to years of brain fog? The discussion is always how to increase exercise, not thinking. Really good point. That is a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. So, yeah, we've seen this a lot, especially with people who really value their intellect and sharp thinking. People who typically get brain fog. They're people who really loved studying before, or learning, or being sharp, right? And there's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down. Won't do it on this call, but symptoms, your top symptoms are linked to your highest values. So for example, we have people who have engineering degrees or their master's degrees and just really bright, smart, intellectual individuals. They're the ones who get brain fog the most because your brain knows which buttons to press to slow you down and to get under your skin to keep you in this kind of fight or flight mode or frozen state. So with brain fog, in order to increase that, you have to take it slow, but very similar to increasing exercise. It's all exposure therapy. But specifically what that looks like, for example, we've had people with severe brain fog, as in looking at a screen for 10 seconds is difficult. That causes a headache. And flashing lights, a lot of weird visual floaters, things like that. So we want to start small. I'd say reading is a really good place to start. And when I say reading, I mean like 2 to 3 sentences. There have been some people who they could read a book in 2 weeks. They went from that to not even being able to read one page. So we have to start small. Even if it's uncomfortable, start with 3 sentences, but try to read it as well as you can. Even if you don't retain it, even if you don't memorize it or even understand it, just pronouncing the words, it starts to wake up those areas of your brain that can, I guess, process information. So I would start with read 3 sentences on any kind of book. Not any book. I'd read a simple book. We have this joke where we say, don't read some in-depth article or research study. Read like Captain Underpants. Read something super simple.
You
Easy
went
words.
even far simpler than what I'm like, that's a good tip. And then you took it way farther than I was even expected. I love it.
Yeah, like even Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, that might be a little too complex. I'm talking like kindergarten, big letters, spaced out with cartoons in the background. Humpty Dumpty. Like go read that stuff. 2 to 3 sentences. That's it. Because another thing is the association with the cognitive activity. You're going to already anticipate this is probably going to give me more brain fog or flare me up. So if we start at a very low level, it not only helps your brain kind of wake up those areas, but it gives you more confidence. It's like, oh, I can actually do something. Okay, so the first week I would read 3 sentences of Humpty Dumpty or whatever. The week after that, see if you could read double that or even a full page. I mean, those pages aren't too long. I think there's only like 4 sentences in Humpty Dumpty books. But then you just build off from there. But the other thing is you have to be okay doing such a small amount of reading. You're going to feel like, okay, what's the point of this? 3 sentences, is that really going to move the needle in recovery? And I'll tell you, it will, because the progress is exponential. At first, you're reading like 3 sentences. Maybe the next week, you're reading 6 sentences. Think about this like progress. And then within 3 weeks, you're reading like 3 to 4 pages. And then once it kind of clicks in your brain and your brain realizes it's safe and you get the processing power back, next thing you know, you're reading multiple chapters at a time, right? So it doesn't go at that slow pace the entire time. Same thing with exercise. The returns are exponential, and same with brain retraining. Actually, all of this stuff, the progress is exponential. So just because it's slow in the beginning understand it's not always going to be at that pace. It's exponential.
It's that lesson again in thinking smaller than you've ever thought, and then that lesson in humility. And I'm picturing, the athlete who now returns to the gym and is doing bicep curls with 1 pound or 1 kilogram
Yes.
weights. Just that, like you said, put your ego on the shelf. Now you're this person who knows you're intelligent, who maybe has, these different, academic or whatever achievements, and now you're reading Captain Underpants. Oh, and you can't even read the whole book. No, you're not ready for that. You're going to do page 1 today. And then that's it.
Yeah.
And I feel you for people watching. It's really tough. It's a lesson in patience. But I always found go smaller is always a better way to go than trying to go bigger. You'll make better progress. It really is the turtle and the hare, scenario. You're going to get to the finish line faster if you just put the brakes on and, have some patience.
100%.
Okay. Our next question, Raelan, how often is unresolved childhood trauma seen as a precursor to long COVID? Okay, my name is on that question, but I think we both have things to say to that. I actually have a video coming up on the channel titled How Your Childhood Trauma Caused Your Long COVID. So if that's any indication of my understanding from the research and the information that we have of how often it's linked, I think it's linked a lot, because anything that wires your brain to be on high alert makes you at a higher risk for getting these neuroplastic conditions, these nervous system regulation conditions. And this can be absolutely from childhood trauma. This can happen from when you're a baby. It can happen at any point in childhood. And childhood trauma might be that you grew up in a war zone, or it just might be that you went to a really competitive school, or you had really demanding parents. And so much of your achievement and value and worth was around, like how many straight A's you got and how many trophies you had on the shelf. And all of this wires you to be on high alert and seeing the world through the lens of danger. So definitely from the experts I've talked to, from all of the reading I've done, from all the people I've interviewed, virtually every one of them say, when I really zoom out and look at this, it didn't start a few months before COVID. It started years and years before COVID, anxiety and different patterns that just had me primed. So that's my take. Miguel, what are your thoughts on this?
I was smiling the whole time because you just described like my exact situation. The pressure we put on ourselves. I think probably grade 1 or kindergarten. That's when my brain started firing, and it's like everything is competition. I got to earn my stripes. I put a lot of pressure on myself. So yeah, absolutely. Childhood trauma or childhood experiences is a precursor. It can be a precursor to a lot of this stuff. CFS, long COVID, fibromyalgia, all these things. So the way I see it, the actual like long COVID, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. There was a lot going on before that. And the way I see it is, yeah, if you grew up and you had these stressors in your life, we all have a stress threshold. This is the way I see it. We have a stress threshold of how much stimulation our nervous system or brain can handle. So let's say, your stress threshold is up here. Now, throughout your life, if you don't solve these other stressors, they start to stack up. So for some people, it's like, okay, parents always fought, they were overly demanding, grew up in a war zone, right? Or we didn't have much money to eat. It's very stressful. I couldn't join different activities in school. So these things start to add up. Maybe something happened with past relationships. So now we see like we're reaching that limit up here. Now, let's say you're right over here. Next thing you know, you get COVID when you're 25 or 30 or 40 or whatever. You get COVID. That's a pretty big stressor for your body. For some people, that can jump you up here over your stress threshold. So that threshold, once you cross that, the alarm bells start going off where it's like, okay, we've reached our limit. We need this person to slow down or take the pressure off the nervous system. There's too much stress going on. We can no longer add any more stress. And we've given subtle signs, we've given some symptoms to this person. Maybe it was fatigue or anxiety or insomnia. prior to even getting the COVID, but they're still going. They've added on more stress. So now we're no longer going to suggest this person stops through symptoms. We're going to force them to stop. Symptom, fatigue, all of this stuff, it hits you. So that's the only way it can force you to stop adding stimulus to your nervous system, right? So it's essentially it's when all these stressors stack up and you reach that limit, boom, you get COVID, you get some kind of virus or sickness, or someone passes away in the family, just anything stressful. That one thing can be the straw that breaks the camel's back. But because there was all this other stuff boiling beneath the surface, and yeah, childhood trauma, that can definitely be one of them. But yeah, I hope that makes sense. It's all about the threshold. Now, let's say you were solving these things. Let's say, because some people grow up in war zones and, have very difficult upbringings, but they don't get CFS. Because some people are just better at processing certain emotions than others. Maybe they found another hobby to neutralize that, I guess, negativity in their life. Other people don't find it. So everybody's different. Also, everybody's got a different threshold that they can handle. But the cool thing is, with the kind of stuff we teach, like Raelan teaches on her channel, you can increase that threshold. You can deal with these other stressors and actually get rid of them, or change the way you see them so you don't perceive them as an actual stressor. So that's the cool thing about the brain. It's neuroplastic. It can change. So, if you can get symptoms and get sick like this, you can also get a lot better, and you have the power. So don't feel like just because you've had childhood trauma, it's something that's going to be with you forever. There's ways to solve it. So many people solve it all the time.
And you don't have to resolve everything. One of my favorite things that I've learned recently was from Nicole Sachs, and she talks about imagining that we have this emotional reservoir inside of us that's like this big glass beaker, like you'd see in a laboratory. And we're meant to be able to carry some stuff around because it's a protective mechanism to repress emotions. We don't always want to deal with everything in the moment. It's not always the safe moment to express rage or some of these really strong emotions. So we can carry some of this stuff around, but when you have weeks, months, decades of feeling it, pushing it down, like every once in a while, you need to take some scoops out. And whether that's with just giving yourself a chance to feel them and process them, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through journaling, through meditation, whatever it is that you do, it's just when it reaches that maximum threshold, which is, I think what you were saying, this is when the nervous system alarm bells really go off and it's just like too much. We've reached a point that's too far. So yeah, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to figure it all out, but we do have to take some scoops out every once in a while, so our nervous system feels it's at a manageable level.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we are almost up on time. Let's do rapid fire. Let's see how many questions we can get through quickly. Okay. Can you tell us the big line of your recovery protocol? I want to know if it will be useful for me. I'm vax injured since 2021, and even on 2025, I'm scared for no reason in a lot of basic situations.
Okay. The big line, I'm guessing you're saying, what is the go-to saying? Here it is, actually. The golden nugget, well, what we teach is the golden rule in recovery is your success is determined by how well you respond to symptoms. So out of all the hundreds of hours of videos on my channel, if there's one thing you could take away that would lead to recovery, your success is determined by how well you respond to symptoms. So respond well. That's the golden nugget.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, Giselle, my symptoms flare up around different stages of my menstrual cycle, before and after menstruation and before and after ovulation. Sometimes a new symptom comes when my cycle ends. Is this TMS? So is this a nervous system situation?
Yeah, we see this quite a bit. The symptoms can be amplified as well. So what used to be uncomfortable now is extremely uncomfortable. And also the cycles can be off quite a bit. So yeah, we definitely see that all the time. That normalizes though.
Okay, great to hear. All right, next, Yuval. Does the ability to respond well to symptoms also go through its own adaptation phases?
Yes,
I like that
it
question.
is. It's harder to respond well. It's more difficult when you are in a flare-up. But as you become more and more functional and you have more capacity and you're living life more, it does become easier overall. But when you have the flare-ups, yeah, it can be twice to 3 times as hard. So yeah, absolutely can change, but over time it does get easier and easier. It comes naturally.
And I love what you said earlier, but never perfect. You're still never gonna, even the pros of the ultimate pros in the world don't get everything right, and neither are you.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Raelan, Miguel, do you include vagal nerve stimulation as a part of your treatment regimen? What do you think about?
Not necessarily. If it helps some people, yeah, like they'll massage here or they'll have some tool, but it's really rare. Like we don't actually build it into people's plans because we haven't seen a correlation of if they're using those tools that they actually get better faster. So uh, if it helps, they do it. If not, they don't. But we never really dabble into that stuff, at least on my end.
It's a really, really good question and an interesting one, and something that I think that we need to study more, because there's so much potential, especially when you look at some of these vagus nerve stimulators, and I have one. And when you look at the research behind them, it's very impressive, and it's backed by, like Harvard and all the big people, institutions we want it to be backed by. So it's showing good results. But then also a couple of questions come up in conversations that I've had with people on the channel about this. And one is like our body is always looking for a level of homeostasis, right? So like if you have too much caffeine, it shoots up your energy, but your body's pushing against that. It's trying to bring you back down to where you're supposed to be. And then once the caffeine disappears, you have a crash while your body's still pushing down against it before it adjusts and realizes that it doesn't have to be trying to counteract this. So there could be something happening with artificial vagus nerve stimulation. When you're overstimulating it in an unnatural way, your body could be trying to bring you back and counteract that. And then the other piece is that some of these things are short-term solution to a long-term problem. So are you getting at the core of what's going on? Are you getting at the reasons why your nervous system is in this high alert state? So it can be a helpful tool in the moment, I think, if you're having a challenging day, just like an extra boost to bring your nervous system into a state of calm. But I don't think it can be your long-term plan for calming your nervous system, because it's just a bit of a Band-Aid from what I can see.
Yeah, it could definitely help if you pair it with the brain retraining. I used a Muse headband for a couple months, and it did help.
I
But
love
I was
that.
also doing a lot of the other work internally.
And Muse is a little bit different because it's actually brain retraining. It
Yeah,
teaches
it's
you
great.
how to rewire your brain and react and respond to things differently. So that is brain retraining, and that is
Yeah.
teaching your nervous system how to respond differently. So I'm not an expert on vagus nerve stimulation. That's just my take from the people I've spoken to. Okay, let's see. We'll fit two. Let's try and get maybe a couple more quick questions in. Have you helped any endurance athletes, triathletes get back to operating at their old levels? Good question. Can you get back to where you were?
Yeah, I mean, there's been quite a handful of athletes now to get at that same level. It may take a little bit longer, as in maybe more than a year to go from obviously like bedridden to running an Ironman. But okay, for example, there's a recovery interview out on the channel 2 weeks ago. It came out. Dusty, 73 years old. She was a world champion athlete, 4-time world champion for long distance biking. She was bedridden 2 years ago. Really bad case of CFS. The garbage truck going by would flare up her entire body. So she was straight up bedridden 2 years ago. So when she was 71 years old, she's now 73 and she bikes over 100 kilometers a week. 100 miles a week actually, and she signed up for like I think it's a 200-mile race in November. So yeah, she's back into it. She's back competing and stuff. And I would suggest go watch that video, Dusty, because that's exactly what you're asking. She's crushing it, and I think she's going to surpass what she did before.
I've definitely interviewed people as well who have gotten back to their really intense high levels of athleticism. So yeah, I think it's 1,000% possible. All right, one more. Who do we got? Down to Earth with Katie. Finding your channel and being in Miguel's program has helped me get my life, work, and happiness back. Katie.
I know Katie. I recognize that face. Katie S from the UK. Shout out to Katie.
Hey,
Crushing it.
Katie. So happy for you, and thank you for sharing that. I think a good question right now to throw in would just be for people who aren't familiar with you, Miguel, or your program, or like what support you have if they're thinking, okay, this all kind of resonates. I want to maybe learn more from you, or what does that look like? What are people's options?
Yeah, so we have a YouTube channel similar to Raylan's channel. We talk about all these different solutions to symptoms and situations with CFS, how to deal with, how to just get better. Essentially, we have hundreds of hours of videos on our channel, and we've also created a recovery system. It's to give people more structure and also hands-on support. During their recovery journey. So, a lot of people they see the information, but it's really hard to implement. So what we've created is, hey, come on board. We'll create a specific personalized plan for you, all data driven as well. So we do have a nervous system health assessment. Uh, all the plans we create for people, nothing is ever the same. It's all individualized based on symptoms, history, their current situations. So it's by application process. They could, apply, see if this is something that we can help solve. And yeah, there's a lot of things we can do together, and we can even see roughly how long it would take to recover if they just do the nervous system health assessment. So mainly the main thing is YouTube. They could go check out our YouTube videos, and if they want more extra help, more hand holding, they want a coach they can message every day, then they can also apply to see if they're a good fit to work with us.
Yeah, and Miguel's program for people watching is having such incredible results. I've talked to many people who have gone through it and gotten their health and their life back. And many of the coaches in his program are people who have gone through the program and done it all firsthand and then are now, they're doing coaching. It's just an incredible group of people. And another really helpful thing about this is that there's different levels of the program. So if you want just, and to suit your budget as well. So, or maybe you just want a less hands-on thing. You're like, I'm more of a self-study person. I want a little bit of, support. Or if you want daily coaching calls and daily support, there's that as well. So you really get to just choose your path. And see what's a good fit for you. And of course, all that will be linked in the video description, Miguel's amazing channel, information about his programs, all his social media stuff. It's all there. So definitely do yourself a favor and just take a moment and expand that description and take a look because he really has a wealth of information and the overwhelming majority of it for free there for you to check out. So amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Miguel. I'm going to link another video. I don't know if I can get it up here because it's live, but I'm going to put it in the description if we can't, of one of your amazing coaches that we had on recently. So you can get a different perspective of like from first person, what it's like going through the program and now how they are helping other people to recover. So thank you for being here. Information packed. Every word was gold. This was so helpful and so amazing. I really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thanks so much. This is always fun. Hope people got a lot of value out of this. And everybody watching this, just know that recovery is absolutely possible. You're here right now putting in the work. So just keep going. It does get better and better and better. And there's a whole life waiting for you on the other side of this thing. And there's plenty more life left to live. Your best days are yet to come. So keep on going. You got this. And yeah, we're here to help you. And just keep watching the YouTube videos.
Yeah, and I know we didn't get to all the questions, but thank you for all the questions. And after this video shuts down right away, we're just wrapping up, but you can put them in the comments. And Miguel's really good at coming back and answering questions after the fact. So just put them in the comments under the video if we didn't get to your question. And also let us know if you find this helpful, if you'd like us to do more of these types of live sessions. Selfishly, I'm hoping yes, because they're so fun for me. And I just think we get all this great information out so quickly. But let us know if it's helpful for you, because I imagine, I'm going to speak for Miguel, he is happy to come back.
Yeah, awesome. Take it easy, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
And okay.